YouTube. In this video, I'm gonna bring you information on all the characters available in Home Sweet Home Survive. That's both Specters and Survivors alike, and that's including the purchasable characters as well. And I'll do a quick comparison as to which character is going to be the best character overall for your play. Right, with that in mind, let's go through some of the basic characters first. So you have 4 different characters in the game. You got Tim, Uncle Pay, Nipa, and Jane. On and off, I don't know if I'm saying this right, are purchasable characters, and they can be purchased through the Amethyst store, which is purchasable as an extra currency. They cost 530 amethyst, and if you do wish to purchase them, by all means, but please do go through this video before you make that decision. Now, you can purchase the character using in-game gold as well, but as in-game gold is a lot harder to come through, I would highly recommend just using the amethyst to purchase them outright. Right, so let's talk about main characters. Tim. Tim here has highest HP. All survivors come with 3 stats: HP, stamina, and expertise. HP refers to amount of hits you can take, stamina refers to amount of time you can run, and expertise refers to speed of the skill check. So higher the expertise, the slower the skill check, so it is easier for you to hit great skill checks. Now, expertise is something that you don't really need in this game. Essentially, unless you're running a specific perk build that would really utilize that great skill checks, it is highly recommended that you go with somebody with a higher HP or higher stamina, simply because it will guarantee you to live longer. If you are focused on rituals, yes, expertise is good. However, the killer doesn't know whether you will be focused on ritual or for chases, and for the purpose of the game, if you get chased, there's no one to really help you but yourself. So higher HP and higher stamina is strongly recommended. Now, if you do want to go for expertise build, you can use perks such as Sharp Eye or Focus, that's shown on the screen right now. And you can use them, but as I said, best thing to do is just have HP, have stamina. Right, so let's talk about Tim, our first character. First, we start with Tim. He's got 2 HP, 3 stamina, and 2 expertise, with a passive called Non-Metal Knife. Basically, as long as you're not holding any items, every 25 seconds you get an item. Now, not only you get the item, you can use this. So, you can use this item to stun the killer. And it doesn't say it on here, but even if you hold the item and drop it, the knife still stays in your hand. So you could actually use, if you need to use the item, you can use the item. If you don't use the item, then you still retain the knife. So it is very good. And the fact that it doesn't use any time or effort for you to create this is one of the best perks you can have in this game. It allows you, provided that you can hit Spectre with it, it stuns the Spectre. In theory, as long as the killer doesn't have immunity, you could have 4 Tims running around just buying time, hitting Spectre one at a time. Realistically speaking, that's not gonna work because no one's gonna do the ritual in that case, but you could buy a lot of time with it. Tim's, he's a tank. He's also a decoy, he's a distraction. Tim's job is to follow Spectre and hit Spectre with his non-metal knife, stun the killer briefly so that your fellow survivor has enough time and distance to run away. If the Spectre was to chase Tim, the Spectre will still have to deal with the knife anyway, which makes him very frustrating to play against when played very well. Now, with that in mind, you can equip him with different perks to make him a better runner. You could also use different abilities on him as well, but he is overall a strong character to play. I would probably say he's one of the better characters. He's, if not the best character for survivors. Now, next character we are looking at is Uncle Pay. Uncle Pay has 2 HP, 4 stamina, and 1 expertise, and his passive is called Not Alone. What his passive does is he allows to see the auras for all the survivors. So that means Uncle Pei is aware of location of every single survivor in the game. Now, information perk is always useful. If you're playing this with a friend, you probably know what you're all doing. But knowing the location of every survivor allows Uncle Pei to work as a bodyguard as well, similar to Tim, but he does need to farm items to that. So he needs to get a rattan, for example, or a holy water, or get a tripwire set up so that other survivors can escape. So he works very similarly as like Tim in his way. He's also got 2 HP, which means he's got higher HP than the female characters in the game. He's also got 4 bars of stamina, a bit higher than Tim. His expertise is lacking, but as I said before, it is not exactly a priority that you need to worry about in this game. Now, even if you don't play in a group, in this in Home Sweet Home Survive, you have an ability to ping your locations or key item locations, and you also have a text in-game text chat. However, Not Alone just gives you an information all the time at every time without relying on text chat or in-game ping locations and things like that. So it is actually a quite good perk to go as well. It's the fact that he's lacking a passive skill that can benefit other survivors, like how Tim's skill benefits other survivors. That makes him not as good as Tim in my opinion. Now, next character I want to talk about is Nipa. Nipa has 1 HP, 2 stamina, 3 expertise, and a passive called Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense allows you to get location of Specters every 5 seconds. Now, this is really bad, considering that Tim has 2 HP and 3 stamina, and Uncle Pei has 2 HP and 4 stamina. If you ignore the expertise part, she has half stats of Uncle Pei. And her passive perk, Sixth Sense, doesn't really do much. In this game, there's no stealth. You are constantly running around. Killer always knows where your location is, essentially, with the ability to go invisible. So, does this perk actually work? No, it doesn't. Expertise, does it actually give you any benefit in terms of ritual speed? Not really. I mean, Tim does things better in every way, with more HP, more stamina, and just as good expertise. Uncle Pei is not as good on expertise, but he essentially has double the stats of Nipa. Not only that, if you add all her stat points, that's including expertise, it totals to 6. Both Tim and Uncle Pei's stats add to 7. Now, we haven't even gone through the Jane yet, but at this point, I can say for sure that Nipa is by far the worst character in this game, and she does need some sort of buff or possibly change to her passive, because she is, quite frankly, not a good pick to play. If you're playing Nipa, if any of you come from Dead by Daylight, she's basically playing with no meter. That's what it is. Right. Now, as the last of the basic survival, you have Jane. Jane has 1 HP, 4 stamina, and 3 expertise with a passive perk called Second Chance. Now, her HP, stamina alone, just combine them, it's 5 already. Add expertise, you have 8 stats altogether, which is highest in all of the basic survivors there is, actually. Even the expertise doesn't really count for anything anyway. And with 4 stamina, she is able to run. She is able to run for very, very long time. Only downside is that she's got lower HP. However, her passive perk, Second Chance, makes up for it. Now, unlike the other survivors where you die, to be resurrected, your soul must be picked up and must be resurrected accordingly. With Jane, she can self-resurrect with half HP. And if somebody else was to resurrect her, she comes back with a full HP. So what that means is, unlike the male characters who has 2 HP bar and comes with half of that, that's a 3 HP bar they have all together. Jane starts with 1 and gets resurrected and will still have 1 Worst case scenario, if no one was able to pick up Chainsaw, she can still come back from the dead with half HP as well, which is great in this game, because sometimes it's just not possible to come back. Say the Spectre is camping the area, or other survivors are simply trying to finish the ritual that they're doing, so it might not be possible to get that, but second chance is a great perk to have. And not only that, her stamina alone makes her a really good pick. However, again, my personal opinion, Tim is just better. Tim's perk is the only passive perk out of all survivors available that is constantly being used at all stages of the game. You can stun the killer at any stage of the game. Whereas Uncle Pei's one is constantly being used, but it's not beneficial to other team members. Whereas Tim's perk is actually beneficial to other team members as well as Tim himself as well. So think on that. Think on which one is best on that on yourself. Moving on, we are gonna go through the purchasable characters. So that's let's start with Ong first. Ong, right? Ong has 4 HP, biggest in the game, with but with 1 stamina and 1 expertise. So his total stat adds to 6, just like Nipan. And his passive perk, Berserker, allows him to do more damage to Specters when he's half HP or lower. Now when you say more damage, it's 5 damage more per hit. Now consider this. Specters have 270 HP. As far as I know, they all have 270 HP no matter what at the moment. 5 damage on top isn't a lot, and you need to equip item to actually be able to use that as well. And your HP needs to be less than 50% as well. Sure, he's got loads of HP, but his stamina is so low to a point that he can't really run far either. He's meant to be a tank in your game essentially, but tank is not very much of a use in this game unless tank can be healed, and there's no way to heal. And he's just got nothing. He's just got HP. That's all he's got. That's all I'm gonna have to say on that one. His perk is not very useful. 5 damage. If the ritual is not complete at the end of the game, 5 damage gets reduced. A off. I don't know how to say it. Right. HP 2, stamina 2, expertise 3, and he's got Let's Fight Ghost as his passive. Now his overall stat is 7 altogether, like other male characters apart from Ong, but his stamina is a bit low. Although his expertise is higher compared to Tim. Tim can run a bit longer. Uncle Pei can run a lot longer. They all have the same HP. Expertise. Do you need expertise? No, not really. Now Let's Fight Ghost. What this does is, after not holding item for 15 seconds, you can use bare hands to deal damage. How much? 10. And if you have a specific item, the Chaplet, you can also stun the killer. Chaplet is 40 damage once the rituals are complete. So even with the killer with 270 HP, Chaplet is a lot of damage. So this perk doesn't really add much to it. 10 damage extra is not. It's still better than Ong's perk. I'll tell you that. It still is better than Ong's perk, but it's very situational. It needs to be. It's not attached to any item, but only a specific item for the stuns, and damage is just insignificant, and it doesn't give you any other beneficial effect during the game. Its effect only kicks in at the end game. He's better than Ong. But compared to Tim and Uncle Pei, who are both default survivors when you buy this game with it, is he worth it? Is he worth 530 amethyst to you? The 2 purchasable characters, for survivors at least, are not worth it. Now let's look at the killer side. Killers, we have Belle and Prisoner. Belle, who has 2 strengths, 3 movement speed, and 3 sneak, with the active skill called Blood Portal. Now, I'm not 100% sure what sneak is meant to do, because the Prisoner isn't exactly sneaky. He's massive, right? Even if you go invisible, if you see really carefully, Specter's shadow is on the ground still. You can actually see the Specter's shadow. So I don't exactly know what sneak is good for, but anyway, right? So she's got two skills, one passive and one active. The blood portal allows you to teleport to any random survivor in the game, and blood trail allows you to track any survivor that you were chasing. Now, the active perk, blood portal, can snowball very, very easily. So after you've downed a survivor, you use the skill, you're right next to another survivor straight away. Now, only downside is that because of her really, really good movement and the ability to track survivors, her strength is very low. It's half what Prisoner is, or at only 2 bars. She does struggle in downing survivors quickly enough. That said, you can't really hide from her. She can teleport next to you. She essentially feels like a ghost that just chases you down. And it's for a default character, default Spectre that you can play in this game. Those abilities are very, very good, and it will actually help you to learn the game a lot better than Prisoner will, to be fair. Now, Prisoner on the other hand is a lot more powerful with 4 strength and full 4 sneak. However, movement speed is only 1. Considering that Belle had a 3 movement speed at 2 and half the strength of what Prisoner has, it does make Prisoner feel really, really sluggish when you're in a chase. However, at overall stat is 9 on Prisoner, whereas Belle has only overall stat of only 8. So Prisoner does end chases better, does get kills better than Belle in my opinion. Okay. Now, Prisoner has a Prisoner's skill called Prisoner Chain. What this one does is it essentially grabs a survivor, from a distance and drags them right in front of you so you can hit them. Sounds very familiar because a lot of characters in other games do something similar. Throw a hook, pull them towards you, and hit them. That's what this one does. It does run on a massive cooldown at the moment though. But if you were to go invisible, up here, right behind the survivor, and then use chain, they just cannot run away from you. It's guaranteed to hit them. So he's very, very good. He's not very good at finding survivors, but when he does find a survivor, he is very good at downing them. And with 4 strength, he's good at killing off survivors very quickly. And what also helps is his passive. His passive is called Tremor Smash, and whenever he performs an attack, if there's a survivor within his radius, they get stunned. It's a hard CC. Hard crowd control. Once they're stunned, you can follow up with an attack and actually hurt them. And this is really good because Belle has a very short sort of an animation lunge distance between her weapon and survivors, and you can actually dodge that if you were to move fast enough using basically essentially AD spamming, WASD spamming essentially. However, if you try that with Prisoner, he will simply just stun you on the spot, then actually hit you, and you try to run away from that, he will hook you and bring you back to where you started. So he is very, very good, but because of that he's slow. He doesn't have any blood trail like Belle does, so if you were to go on a stealth mode, he can't really find you until he goes invisible. But overall, unlike the survivors, Prisoner is worth getting with Amethyst. He's very, very strong. There is not many prisoners you will see on the game at the moment because I don't think people bought him yet. But if you do decide to spend money on buying a new character, don't bother with the survivors. This is the one to go for. However, that said, both Belle and Prisoner, they play very differently, but I would say they are both sort of equal sort of power. Prisoner is a bit harder to play with especially because he's sluggish at speed. However, he's good throughout the game, beginning, mid, end. Even in the rituals done, he's able to damn people. He's that powerful, right? Belle, on the other hand, you do need to finish the game in the beginning to the middle. You do not want to go to the end stage, because as soon as this ritual finishes, it is actually possible to exercise Belle quite easily in this game. I have done that myself a few times, and she is not exactly a good character. She's not exactly good to go to the end game with, because survivors can actually hunt you down. Okay, and that's it for the wrapping up for today, and that will just give you which character. That just gives you some insight on which characters are the best, both as Survivor and Spectre. So as far as Spectres go, you don't have to purchase Prisoner. The game is fine with Belle as it is right at the moment. But if you do decide to purchase anyone, I would strongly recommend getting the Prisoner. If you were to go for Survivors, right now, my opinion is that Tim and Uncle Pay are by far the best characters in the game right now. And Nipa is by far the worst character. She needs to be buffed a bit, because playing her is essentially throwing the game. Well, those are my opinions anyway. What do you guys think on which characters are the best? Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. I upload videos on a daily basis. If you got any suggestions or anything you have in mind, please leave a comment. Thanks for watching.